What is an appraisal?
So an appraisal is a look back in time at the market value of the property.
Okay.
So we look back at what the willing buyer, willing seller have historically paid for a similar type property. So the definition of market value in general terms is what a willing buyer and a willing seller are willing to pay, but what the typical buyer has paid for in the past. So it's not what necessarily something's under contract for. It's something that has already, it hasn't closed yet, right? So we're looking in the history, the actual data behind us of what those have actually closed for. The important thing to remember is that appraisers have to develop a market value based on history, based on historical data, based on what is actually already closed.
What if there hasn't been anything recently closed in the immediate area, then what?
So there are options for appraisers to go back in time, to go further out in distance, as long as we're making the appropriate adjustments, the market-driven adjustments. But I have to develop that market value adjustment based on actual data for that adjustment. I can't develop an appraisal opinion based on a contract price. That's not what we do.
Yeah.
We develop an opinion of market value based on historical data.
And that's for the bank's purposes, not for the buyer.
That's right, right. I'm developing an opinion of market value to determine whether or not the lender can cover their credit risk on this transaction, this real estate transaction. So, and the bank doesn't get to tell me what comps I can and cannot use. I'm the professional appraiser.
So they take your data, and that's
right.
Wow.
So
that's
I just
a lot
have
of responsibility.
It is a lot of responsibility. We are really the only party involved in the whole real estate transaction that doesn't have some type of skin in the game, right? I'm not getting paid based on commission. I'm not getting paid, to develop a particular value, right? I'm getting paid to develop the market value, what the market is telling us what the home is worth. I always tell people when I go out to do an appraisal, there's no magic in what I do, right? I develop.
It's data-driven.
Data-driven, right? We make market adjustments.
But you're still making judgment calls, though.
Limited judgment calls, though. We make judgment calls based on maybe the condition of the house, right? But our adjustments are still supposed to be market-driven adjustments. And that's why it's important for us to have closed sales, historical data, and not something that's still under contract, right? The pending and the listings, that kind of tells us where our market is going, right? It shows us kind of a little bit of a look.
Use solds.
We have to use solds because that's the definition of market value. One of the issues that I see with the definition of market value right now in the specific time frames that we're using is one of the requirements for definition of market value is that there's been a reasonable time exposed to the market. Right? And how often do we see properties that are selling going under contract the same day that they're listed or within 2 to 3 days, right? Most everything is under contract in less than 5 days right now, right? That shortened time frame, it really comes to the question as to whether or not there's been a reasonable time exposed to the market for the definition of market value to apply to those properties.
Because you don't know how many people are in that buying pool at that given moment.
That's right.
That because of the search engines that realtors use, and people can search homes like this now.
That's right.
A lot of people that are serious are set up on a proper search, and so they will get that information. But if there's something going on in their life and they just haven't had a chance to look, or they're just too busy, you're right. There needs to be X amount of time on the market. That's very interesting. I'd like to have a screen put up with your contact record so that if buyers or sellers have questions for you, or if they want to use you in a sale or purchase of a property, would you be willing to allow us to do that?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we'll put that at the end. Kathy, I want to thank you so much for coming and being a part of this discussion today. And I would like to reserve the right to ask you back for a future discussion. Are you okay with that?
Absolutely. Love to come back.
Thank you so much.
Yep, this has been fun.
Great.